She vanished on a quiet evening, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. What police discovered weeks later would shock everyone who knew her. Gabby Petito was 22, a young woman with plans, ambitions, and a camera to capture every step of her journey. She and her fiancé, Brian Laundrie, had set out across the country in a white van, chasing national parks, sunsets, and stories they could share online. At first, it looked like the perfect adventure, a life on the road, free and full of promise. Her social media told one story: breathtaking landscapes, happy smiles, the excitement of youth and travel. But the story on the screen was only part of the truth. Then, slowly, posts stopped, messages were left unanswered, calls went ignored. Gabby, who had shared so much of her life online, disappeared from the digital world entirely. Brian returned to Florida alone. The van they shared crossed state lines without her. He offered no explanation, no leads, no information. The person closest to Gabby became the first mystery in the case. Friends and family grew concerned. They tried calling, texting, asking questions, and for days there was only silence. The nation began to notice. Strangers online started piecing together her journey. Photos, videos, locations, every small detail was analyzed, every caption reread. And as they looked closer, a chilling picture began to emerge. Gabby had been visible to the world. She had been there, in the forests, on the highways, under open skies, yet somewhere along the way she disappeared from all of it. What happened in those final days? Who saw her last? Who, if anyone, could explain the vanishing of a young woman whose life was documented in real time, yet whose fate remained unknown? Stay with this story. Every detail matters, every moment counts, because the truth behind Gabby Petito's disappearance is more complex and more heartbreaking than anyone could have imagined. And by the end of this story, you'll see why her case gripped a nation, why millions followed every development, and why the unanswered questions still haunt us today.
Gabrielle Venora Petito, born on March 19, 1999, grew up in Blue Point, New York. She was raised in a blended family and had 6 younger siblings and half-siblings. As a teenager, she appeared alongside her stepbrothers in a music video created in response to the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting, part of a broader effort to raise awareness about gun violence in the United States. In 2017, Petito graduated from Bayport Blue Point High School in Bayport, New York. It was during her time there that she met Brian Christopher Laundrie. Later that year, she relocated to Carolina Beach, North Carolina, where she lived from September 2017 through January 2019. While there, she worked as a restaurant hostess and also assisted in the kitchen at a nearby restaurant in Wilmington. She applied to attend Cape Fear Community College, but ultimately did not enroll. Petito began a relationship with Laundrie in March 2019 and soon moved with him to Northport, Florida, where they lived with his parents. Both found work at a local Publix supermarket, Petito as a pharmacy technician and Laundrie in the grocery department. When the COVID-19 pandemic began, they left their jobs. Toward the end of 2019 and into early 2020, the couple set out on a cross-country road trip, traveling from New York to California. Their journey included stops in places such as Las Vegas, Yosemite National Park, and Pismo Beach. In March 2020, Petito marked her 21st birthday in Nokomis, Florida. A few months later, in June, the pair visited Soap Creek in Georgia, and by July they were engaged. In December 2020, Petito bought a 2012 Ford Transit Connect van that had been converted into a camper, intending to use it for another extended road trip. To fund their plans, she worked long hours, often up to 50 hours a week at Taco Bell, and also held work as a nutritionist. During this time, Laundrie was employed at an organic juice bar. Petito shared much of her life online, documenting her travels and daily experiences through platforms such as YouTube and Instagram. On social media, she described her interests as centered around art, yoga, and plant-based living. In mid-June 2021, Petito and Laundrie traveled to Blue Point, New York, Petito's hometown, to attend her younger brother's graduation ceremony. The visit took place on June 17. Just over 2 weeks later, on July 2, the couple officially began their cross-country trip, leaving Blue Point in a white Ford Transit Connect van they had converted for travel. Throughout July, their journey took them through several well-known landmarks in the western United States. They stopped at Monument Rocks, visited Great Sand Dunes National Park and Preserve, and continued on to Zion National Park and Bryce Canyon National Park. Their route also included Mystic Hot Springs and Canyonlands National Park. During this period, the trip appeared outwardly routine, documented through photos and social media posts that reflected a long-planned road adventure. That perception changed on August 12, 2021. On that day, a 911 call was placed by a witness outside the Moonflower Community Cooperative in Moab, Utah. The caller reported seeing a man and a woman engaged in a physical argument. According to the caller, the man struck the woman, after which the pair ran up and down the sidewalk. The caller said the man then hit the woman again before they got back into a van and drove away. A second witness also spoke with police, describing the interaction as intense and confrontational. That witness said the couple appeared to be speaking aggressively and that Petito was seen striking Laundrie on the arm. She believed Laundrie was attempting to leave Petito behind while holding on to her phone. Before driving away, Petito entered the driver's seat, then moved to the passenger side so Laundrie could drive. The witness reported hearing her say, "Why do you have to be so mean?" Shortly after receiving the call, officers from the Moab City Police Department located a van matching the description, being driven erratically near the entrance to Arches National Park. Police initiated a traffic stop. Inside the vehicle, officers found Petito seated in the passenger seat, visibly distressed and crying uncontrollably. Body camera footage recorded her emotional explanation of the events leading up to the stop. Petito told officers that she struggled with obsessive-compulsive disorder and described herself as feeling overwhelmed and stressed. She explained that she had been cleaning the van and working on her computer earlier that day, saying she had recently quit her job to travel and was trying to build a blog and website. According to her account, the pressure of trying to make the trip successful, combined with Laundrie's lack of confidence in her plans, had led to arguments throughout the morning. She said she had been apologizing repeatedly, telling him she was sorry for being in a bad mood and for how frustrated she felt. She also stated that Laundrie had prevented her from getting into the van at one point. Initially, Petito minimized the physical nature of the altercation. However, after an officer pointed out visible marks on her arm and face and asked her to be honest, she stated that Laundrie had grabbed her face and told her to be quiet, which she said caused the injury. Laundrie gave his own version of events to police. He told officers that he had suggested they both calm down and take a break. He said Petito became increasingly upset, tried to take the van keys, and struck him with her phone. He admitted to pushing her away, but said he was attempting to create space and de-escalate the situation, acknowledging that he should not have done so. Petito later told officers that she had hit Laundrie first and repeatedly asked them not to separate the two of them. In a written report, one of the responding officers noted that Petito was crying continuously throughout the interaction and appeared unable to calm herself. The report stated that Laundrie attempted to distance himself by asking her to take a walk, but that she resisted being separated and continued to strike him. According to the officer, Laundrie grabbed her face and pushed her away as she pressed toward him and the van. Neither Petito nor Laundrie chose to file charges. Officers classified the incident as a mental health crisis rather than domestic violence, a distinction that avoided a mandatory arrest. As a temporary solution, police arranged for the couple to spend the night apart. Laundrie was taken to the Bowen Motel in Moab, while Petito remained with the van. In the weeks that followed, the Moab City Police Department reviewed the handling of the incident to determine whether officers had followed department policies. During that internal investigation, the department's chief of police took a leave of absence. On August 17th, Brian Laundrie abruptly left the road trip and flew from Salt Lake City, Utah to Tampa, Florida, leaving Petito behind. During his absence, Petito stayed alone at a Fairfield Inn & Suites near Salt Lake City International Airport. Hotel staff later confirmed that she remained there for several days and checked out on August 24th. The reason for Laundrie's trip was later explained by the Laundrie family's attorney, who stated that Laundrie had returned to Florida to retrieve personal belongings and close a storage unit in an effort to save money, as the couple were considering extending their travels. Laundrie returned to Utah on August 23rd, rejoining Petito and resuming the trip. According to Petito's mother, her final conversation with her daughter took place on August 25th. During that call, Petito said she and Laundrie were traveling from Utah toward Grand Teton and Yellowstone National Parks. That same day, the last post appeared on Petito's Instagram account. The photos showed her smiling in front of a butterfly mural outside a restaurant in Ogden, Utah. No further posts were made after that. 2 days later, on August 27th, a witness reported seeing the couple together at the Mary Piglet's Tex-Mex restaurant in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, between 1 and 2 p.m. The witness described Laundrie as visibly angry and said he became involved in a heated dispute with restaurant staff, allegedly over money. According to the witness, Petito later returned to the restaurant alone, visibly upset, apologizing repeatedly for Laundrie's behavior. The restaurant later confirmed through social media that the couple had been there that day. Later that afternoon, surveillance cameras captured Petito and Laundrie at a Whole Foods store in Jackson, Wyoming. Records show they arrived in the parking lot at 2:11 p.m., entered the store 3 minutes later, and exited at 2:30 p.m. They then sat inside the van for roughly 20 minutes before driving away at 2:56 p.m., heading north on Highway 89 toward the Bridger-Teton National Forest. This footage would become the last confirmed visual record of Petito alive. Also on August 27th, a text message was sent from Petito's phone to her mother that read, "Can you help Stan? I just keep getting his voicemails and missed calls." The message immediately alarmed her mother, who later explained that Stan was Petito's grandfather and that she had never referred to him by his first name. After that day, there were no verified sightings of Petito. By early September, concern over Gabby Petito's silence had reached a breaking point. On September 11th, after weeks without hearing from her daughter, Petito's mother formally reported her missing. The case immediately drew national attention. Within 4 days, Brian Laundrie was officially identified by police as a person of interest. Around the same time, Laundrie's parents retained an attorney. Acting on legal advice, the family declined to answer questions and avoided any public engagement about Gabby's disappearance, a decision that quickly drew public scrutiny and intensified media pressure. Law enforcement began monitoring the Laundrie home in Northport, Florida. Officers observed Brian leaving the residence on September 13. 2 days later, they saw his car return and believed they had watched Brian re-enter the house. Based on that assumption, Northport Police Chief Todd Garrison told reporters on September 16 that authorities knew where Brian Laundrie was.
That confidence turned out to be misplaced. On September 17, Laundrie's parents contacted police to report their son missing, stating they had not seen him since September 13. Investigators soon realized they had made a critical mistake. The individual they believed was Brian entering the house days earlier was, in fact, his mother. By that point, Brian Laundrie had already disappeared. With search warrants approved, police seized several items from the Laundrie home, including the Ford Transit Connect van, an external hard drive, and a Ford Mustang belonging to the family. 2 days later, on September 19th, investigators searching near Spread Creek in Wyoming made a devastating discovery. Human remains were found in the dispersed camping area where the van had previously been spotted weeks earlier. The remains were confirmed to be Gabby Petito's. An autopsy later determined that her death was a homicide and had occurred several weeks before her body was found. As attention shifted fully to locating Brian Laundrie, federal authorities escalated their efforts. On September 23, a federal arrest warrant was issued for Laundrie, not for homicide, but for the unauthorized use of Gabby Petito's debit card. Investigators alleged that he used her card to withdraw more than $1,000 between August 30th and September 1st. The FBI also collected DNA material from the Laundrie home to assist in identification efforts. In early October, Laundrie's sister publicly urged him to turn himself in. Days later, his father joined law enforcement officers in a renewed search of the Carlton Reserve in Sarasota County, Florida, an area Brian was known to frequent. The search focused on trails and flood-prone regions near the Myakatchee Creek Environmental Park. On October 20, authorities discovered skeletal remains and personal items in the park. The area had recently been submerged due to flooding, delaying earlier searches. Forensic dental records later confirmed the remains belonged to Brian Laundrie. An initial autopsy could not immediately determine the cause of death, and the remains were sent for further forensic analysis. On November 23, officials announced that a forensic anthropologist had concluded that Laundrie died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. With that determination, the search for Brian Laundrie officially ended. Months later, new information emerged that closed the case definitively. On January 21, 2022, the FBI disclosed that a notebook found near Laundrie's remains contained a written confession. In it, Laundrie admitted responsibility for Gabby Petito's death and acknowledged sending messages from her phone after she was gone in an effort to mislead others. Following this revelation, authorities formally identified Brian Laundrie as the sole person responsible for her death and closed the investigation. In June 2022, the Laundrie family's attorney released the notebook entry in full. In his writing, Laundrie claimed that Gabby had been injured and that he believed ending her life was an act of mercy. He expressed regret and described plans to take his own life. However, investigators and criminal justice experts strongly disputed his account, stating that it did not align with physical evidence or investigative findings. One expert characterized the writing as an attempt to minimize responsibility and justify his actions, rather than a truthful explanation of what occurred. With that, the case that had gripped the public for months reached its conclusion, not with a trial, but with a confession written in isolation, discovered long after both lives were already lost. In the years following Gabby Petito's death, the legal consequences extended well beyond the criminal investigation. On November 17, 2022, a civil court ruled in favor of Gabby Petito's estate in a wrongful death lawsuit filed against the estate of Brian Laundrie. The judgment awarded damages totaling $3 million. Despite the ruling, attorneys acknowledged that collecting the full amount was unlikely, as Laundrie left behind little to no financial assets. Gabby's parents also pursued legal action against Brian Laundrie's parents and their family attorney, Steve Bertolino. The lawsuit alleged that they knowingly withheld information about Gabby's death while her family searched for answers, causing severe emotional distress. After mediation, the case was resolved on February 21, 2024. The settlement terms were not made public. Another major lawsuit focused on law enforcement. In November 2022, Gabby Petito's parents filed a $50 million wrongful death claim against the Moab Police Department. The suit centered on the August 12, 2021 traffic stop, arguing that officers failed to properly assess the danger Gabby was in. In 2023, the complaint was expanded to include allegations that Officer Eric Pratt later acknowledged recognizing Brian Laundrie as a potential threat but chose not to act, and that the department failed to follow its own lethality assessment protocol. On November 20, 2024, a judge dismissed the case, citing Utah's Governmental Immunity Act, which shields government entities from certain civil claims. However, the ruling included a notable acknowledgment. The court stated that the allegations met an early threshold, suggesting police actions may have played a role in what followed. Gabby's parents appealed the dismissal to the Utah Supreme Court, continuing their effort to challenge the decision. As the legal battles unfolded, Gabby Petito's case continued to be retold across popular media. In October 2022, Lifetime released a dramatized television film titled The Gabby Petito Story as part of its Ripped from the Headlines lineup. Directed by Thora Birch, the movie starred Skylar Samuels as Gabby Petito, Evan Hall as Brian Laundrie, and Birch herself portraying Gabby's mother. The case returned to public attention again in early 2025 with the release of a Netflix documentary series, American Murder, Gabby Petito. The series revisited the investigation, media response, and unanswered questions, introducing the case to a new audience years after the events first unfolded. The tragic story of Gabby Petito is a stark reminder of how quickly life can change and how vital it is to pay attention to the warning signs of abuse, even in seemingly ordinary circumstances. Though Gabby's life was cut short, the relentless work of law enforcement, the involvement of the public, and the power of social media helped bring answers and accountability. While there was no criminal trial, as Brian Laundrie took his own life before facing justice in court, investigators confirmed through his notebook and evidence that he was responsible for her death. The case has sparked national discussions about domestic violence, missing persons, and the disparities in media attention, highlighting both the importance of advocacy and the need for vigilance in protecting vulnerable individuals. Gabby's family has honored her memory through the Gabby Petito Foundation, ensuring her story fuels action to help others. Her story, though devastating, continues to inspire awareness, prevention, and support for victims of abuse. If this story moved you, take a moment to stay informed, support missing persons initiatives, and remember the importance of speaking up when you see warning signs. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to follow more in-depth, factual true crime stories that honor the lives behind the headlines.